shifting gears to another anchor of our community and our state and our region. We have two great representatives from the company NorthWestern Energy joining us, including the CEO, Bob Rowe, and the Vice President, Bobbi Schroeppel. Thank you for joining us today. I'll start off with a question for Bob. Bob, can you just help our listeners, maybe understand the size and scope of your company? I mean, I'm sure that we could spend an hour talking about all the things you do, but just so people understand the leadership, position that you're in with your team.
Sure. Well, first, thank you very much for doing this. It was great to hear what Senator Daines had to say and what he's doing. You mentioned Chet Huntley at the start. I got to tell a quick Chet Huntley story too. My wife and I were cleaning out boxes of papers and photographs yesterday, and I ran across my dad's Whitehall High School yearbook, and he was just a couple of years ahead of Chet Huntley in high school. And he has some great stories from that period. So it is interesting to think what Chet Huntley would be doing and thinking and saying if he were watching this right now. Yeah, NorthWestern is actually, depending on what measurement you look at, by just geography, it is one of the largest electric and gas companies in the United States. If, on the other hand, you look at it as an enterprise from market capitalization, we're one of the very smallest. We serve parts of Nebraska with natural gas, South Dakota with electricity and natural gas, Montana with electricity and natural gas, and then Senator Daines said Yellowstone Park's a very special place, and we're privileged to serve Yellowstone Park as well. In Montana, we're responsible for actually now over $5 billion of critical infrastructure. And when I think about our company's role, it is a provider of the basic infrastructure, the arteries, the veins, both on the electric side and the natural gas side. So provider of critical infrastructure, but also and a steward of critical infrastructure and a provider of essential service. The third area that means a whole bunch to me is the opportunity we have to be partners to our customers and to our communities. That includes communities, certainly Big Sky, but all across Montana. So as we've approached the COVID-19 situation, that has really all been top of mind for Bobbi, for myself, for all the folks we work with.
Wonderful. Wow, it's amazing stats. I learn something every time I read up or hear something about your company, but that's fascinating. Can you, what's been some of the more memorable adjustments that you've had to make the last 8 weeks?
Yeah, and let me say just a couple of things about how we plan for events like this. And if it's okay, I'm going to toss the hot potato to Bobbi. We have business continuity plans. We do tabletop exercises. We do live exercises. We do exercises on a regular basis, for example, around dam safety for the Hebgen, the Madison dams, other facilities we own. And those turned out to be very, very valuable. We stood up our incident command structure in response to the virus just about 10 years ago. What's been different in this situation is the geographic scope. It's touched every community that we serve. It's touched the whole globe. The duration, we're well now into the second month, although we've been looking at it, anticipating it for longer than that. And then the complexity. You think about all the different aspects of our lives that it's touched. We do what we call our enterprise risk management process, and virtually every one of the factors on that list has in some way been affected by COVID. So we now 6 weeks ago formally stood up our incident command structure. That some basic steps involved moving as many people as we could to remote locations so that the other people could work in facilities. And then our crews, who are responsible for building and maintaining critical infrastructure, have moved into a pod structure. We now have our customer service reps helping our customers from home. So all that's worked actually surprisingly well. we've been incredibly fortunate not to have any employees get ill. We've had a couple of situations where we had to go in and sterilize facilities. And then as the process became more stable for us, we were able to reach out and, for example, our community affairs leaders meet every day. And what they're talking about is how can we help the communities that we serve. So if it's okay, I'd like to, as I said, toss the hot potato over to Bobbi, and she can talk a little bit more about what she's so busy doing.
Great.
Thank you. Hopefully you can hear me. Thanks for having us on the show. It's a great honor. And I really appreciated Senator Daines' comments. They were just exactly in line with our thinking. So Bob had mentioned back in 2009, we actually did do quite a bit of pandemic planning around what was the H1N1 or swine flu virus, and we never really had to use it. But fortunately, we had preserved it and we were able to pull it forward, and it's been remarkably relevant even a decade later. But core to our strategy has been what people are referring to as social distancing. Bob talked about this, but it's really taking every employee that can work from home and moving them home. On any given day, we can have as much as 900 of our roughly 1,530 employees across our entire service territory and all of our states that we serve working from home. So that's actually well over 50%. These employees are actually not allowed to enter a facility. If they do need to get something, they have to go through a formal request process. We've classified every employee, and they're either classified as mission essential, critical, necessary, or as needed. And that classification can change as time goes on, but there's a formal process that you have to go through to request a change. For those who cannot work from home, Bob mentioned our aggressive pod strategy. This would include critical mission essential employees, such as control room operators. We operate the grid in Montana, not only for Montana, but all of the co-ops and MDU as well. That's the transmission system. Generation plant operators, our linemen and our gasmen. One of the things we are a little fortunate on is we have 136,000 square mile service territory. It's one of the biggest in the entire country. So we're somewhat socially distanced on the linemen and gasmen side because of that. But obviously in Bozeman, for example, we've taken extra precautions. These folks are working in distinct groups. They don't interact with other pods. They stagger their start times. We're doing remote pickup and drop-offs of materials so that they can get their critical work done in the field. But so far we are performing mostly our normal maintenance and capital work. In fact, we feel it's more important today than ever that we continue to harden and make the grid resilient, stay on track with tree trimming, et cetera, because if we were to have a major event, it's kind of a common knowledge that there's probably not going to be the type of mutual assistance that we've seen in the past for a while, where other utilities are able to send in sometimes hundreds, if not thousands of workers in, depending on the size of the event. You know, they stay in hotels and they help you put the grid back together. And we're all planning as an industry that we're not going to have that available to us in any large scope for maybe the next 18 to 24 months. We do have a sequester in place plan that would be for just a small number of individuals like our control room operators. We really hope we never have to use that. Right now, we're feeling good that we're not going to have to. And hopefully if we have a second wave of this, our states will continue to do really well, as we've seen in Montana, and control the virus. I wanted to talk a little bit about third parties, because I know we have some substation work and transmission work going on up at Big Sky. That's really important for the reliability up there. But we are ensuring that all of our contractors and third parties are following the same COVID-19 protocols that we are. If you're interested as a customer, or if you're not a customer, you can go to our external website. We have a special COVID-19 page that we keep updated on a daily basis. And then Bob mentioned too, I didn't think this was going to be possible, but in a matter of a couple of weeks, we managed to move 100 customer service representatives from working in 2 contact centers, one in Butte, Montana, and one in Huron, South Dakota, to working from home, and it's going incredibly well.
Oh, that's great. Well, congratulations on that pivot. I'm sure that took some ingenuity. I think one of the things that's impressed me living in Montana, over the last 20 years, is seeing your company's commitment to communities. And I know, and it's kind of a loaded question, but maybe I don't know who to throw this to. Some of your community programs that have evolved because of the COVID situation, in ways that you're not only supporting local communities, but giving back during this time.
Yeah, and I'll start and again hand it off to Bobbi because she's very, very deep in all of this. That's one of the things I love about Northwestern. I get to live in Montana, a state I care about, and I've come to love South Dakota and Nebraska as well. Get to do important work and get to do it with great people. So the community engagement that we have is critical. And the basic thing is, again, infrastructure and service. If we're not doing our job, then the heroes in healthcare or the folks who are keeping the grocery stores open, nobody can do their job. So that is basic. And that's why you see our employees out doing their job safely. In addition to that, though, we've always had a very strong community commitment. In fact, something I would love to have folks go take a look at. Our annual community report is hot off the virtual presses this week. And the address for it is just go to northwesternenergy.com/2020 community report. Literally, it is coming out just week. And that tells the story of all the things we do at the community level. It's a couple $2 million around the service territory, sponsorships and charitable activity. More than that, it's the engagement of our employees and all kinds of things, working at community kitchens, doing stream bed projects, on and on and on. That continues, but on top of that base, we made the early decision to not terminate anyone. We're going into the end of the heating moratorium. Instead, Bobbi's got her folks calling up customers, trying to work with them and just make sure everybody has access to the resources that might be there. We also then set aside an additional $300,000 to work with our customers, residential, small business, tried to make the small business support available before Congress could act. And actually, I appreciated the senator's comment about speed of business as opposed to speed of government. We tried to do that. Now what we're really looking for is ways to continue supporting the groups we've always worked with, continue to work with the local business community, particularly small businesses, and support them as really community by community. They come up with community appropriate strategies for reopening. It's good to see businesses in Big Sky looking at that as well. Bobbi, hot potato off to you.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, Bob did a great job covering a lot of the core stuff. Just a few things I would mention. Just to reiterate, we do on an annual basis give away about $2 million. And I want to just make the point that this is shareholder funds. These are not funds that are in customer rates. In addition to that, we did in our first wave give away another $300,000 that went to various programs, including some in Montana and South Dakota, some small business grants. And just like Senator Daines talked about, the money was gone very, very quickly, but we were thrilled to do it. And it was very heartwarming to work with customers. We're going to be in a mode for probably another year or so with more flexible and extended payment arrangements. We're looking at some options where we can have carrots instead of a stick, so that if customers sign up for like a 12-month payment arrangement, if they meet that payment arrangement on a monthly basis, we may be able to say, look, we might be able to give some, even some small credits back on the bill, because it costs money to roll a truck and disconnect somebody, and we never want to disconnect anybody. That is never our goal. There's been additional federal money allocated to low-income energy assistance. In addition to that, we are working at the local and state level to take a look at what's called the Universal Systems Benefits Fund, and that is money that we collect on the bill every month, and possibly allocating on a temporary basis even some additional money to low-income energy assistance on both the gas and electric side. I mentioned the small business, we've developed a special online resource for small businesses for COVID-19. We are conducting a business recovery survey in partnership with some other organizations. We did make some changes. It used to be not as easy to sign up for some self-service options such as budget billing, auto pay, and electronic billing. We are now letting our customer service representatives sign people up for that while they're on the phone. We're even allowing people, if under certain instances, to roll an existing balance into budget billing. Those are things that we had not done in the past. You had to be current. We're trying to figure out ways to keep our energy efficiency programs going. since we can't offer on-site free weatherization and on audits, but we're looking at if we can do some of that stuff virtually. We have some company match programs where employees are donating, and they've been donated well over, I think, $20,000, and we've been matching that to organizations such as Energy Share. And then we've expanded our Gift of Energy program. So if there are folks out there, who do have, aren't as in dire straits right now, and they want to help either just somebody in general, or they want to help somebody specifically, they can give us a call and we can do a Gift of Energy.
Okay. Wow. That's a lot of programs.
Just one more comment to highlight the good work that the local community has been doing. And Senator Dane said this a bit differently, but I've been thinking about it in terms of physical distancing coupled with social solidarity. And certainly in Montana, or the part of the country that we serve, that's so possible. Many of you know Heather Bellamy, for example, our community leader in Bozeman and Big Sky, the work that she's doing, Big Sky in particular, with the community relief fund that's been stood up and how people are supporting that. That's just extraordinary. And that, along with all the other wonderful reasons we live in Montana, that's why we're here. And we're really proud to be part of that. In Big Sky, it's just a very resilient, united community. Bobbi mentioned we're paying attention to the infrastructure that serves Big Sky. You're paying attention to other parts of the infrastructure. And I'm just so impressed by the way the Big Sky community does pull together to get things done and get the right things done.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And like I said, you guys have played a big role in that, and Heather does great work. One last question for you, Bob. I always love asking CEOs, especially someone who's leading a company as big as you are, is during these times, what's something that keeps you up at night? And I think a second part of that question is what's something that you're grateful for?
Boy, I am grateful for the people I work with. That is the absolute truth. And that's the senior team, Bobbi and the other folks that we spend every day online meeting with, and we're all good friends and a good team. And it's true for the folks in the field, the folks who move to working from home. I couldn't be happier about that. The things we worry about, number one, employee safety. And we've now gone well over 200 days without a lost time incident, even as we've asked people to work in very, very different ways. Number two, community, customer safety, and being there to get the job done for our customers. And again, I'm really pleased that we've been able to do that even with all of the disruption that we're suffering.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing that. And as I'm watching the questions come in, what I think has just become obvious to me is first off, I'm grateful for your time, but there is a lot of people wanting to, I think, dive into bigger topics like sustainability and some of the growth initiatives of your business. So I think I've been inspired that maybe if you'd be willing to come back in a couple weeks or months, we could do a whole episode, I think, just talking to your company and how those arteries are going to continue to evolve in our region and for our town. So if you're up for that, maybe we'll invite
Sure.
you.
Well, the one thing I would say on the sustainability front, we kicked off a community sustainability working group with a meeting at Big Sky in December. And we have a staff, we created an internal position, a sustainability director. He's working on that full time. He reports up to Bobbi. Big Sky is an active participant in that group, as is Bozeman and Helena and Missoula. And that's an important part of where we're going as a company. So I'd love to spend more time talking about that.
Great. Well, that's great to hear. And I will tell you that being here, and I know you both spend time here in Big Sky and love to have you up here as neighbors, but it's just the word sustainability is really rising to the surface through this COVID pandemic. A lot of people, not only on life, but in the way they live and the way they treat the earth, all that word seems to become a kind of a blanket. So having your support in that would be wonderful.